What will happen if Ukraine wins the war? Joining NATO, regaining power, U.S. influence, troubled relations with Russia. What will happen if Ukraine wins the war? Before we find out, please subscribe to our channel and hit the bell icon. The conflict between Ukraine and Russia began in 2014, following the removal of Ukrainian President Viktor Yanukovych. Yanukovych was removed from power after months of protests in the Ukrainian capital of Kyiv, known as the Euromaidan, which were sparked by his decision to back away from a proposed trade deal with the European Union in favor of closer ties with Russia. Following Yanukovych's removal, Russian forces annexed Crimea, a predominantly Russian-speaking island in the Black Sea that was part of Ukraine. The annexation of Crimea was widely condemned by the international community and was followed by a conflict in eastern Ukraine between Ukrainian government forces and separatist rebels supported by Russia. Initially, Mr. Vladimir Putin announced an operation in Ukraine to denazify the country. It was called an act of self-defense. Mr. Putin also warned that any intervention from outside powers to resist the Russian attack would be met with an instant and devastating response. Now, what did Putin really want from this attack, or what were his objectives? Maintaining Russian influence in the region. Ukraine is seen as a critical component of Russia's sphere of influence. The Russian Federation is believed to have been concerned about losing its grip on the country and its access to the Black Sea. Protecting Russian-speaking populations. Crimea and eastern Ukraine have large Russian-speaking populations, and the Russian government has claimed that it was acting to protect these populations from discrimination and mistreatment by the Ukrainian government. Preventing Ukraine from aligning with the West. The conflict in Ukraine is seen as part of a larger struggle between Russia and the West, and Putin is believed to have been concerned about the potential for Ukraine to align with the West and move away from Russia's orbit to become a part of NATO, demonstrating Russian military might. The conflict in Ukraine has been viewed by some as a demonstration of Russian military power and a message to other countries in the region and beyond that Russia is a force to be reckoned with. Maintaining control over key energy routes. Ukraine is a key transit country for Russian natural gas exports to Europe, and the Russian Federation is worried to lose its control on this critical energy route. On the other hand, Western countries have shown significant support to Ukraine. The European Union and the United States have imposed economic sanctions on Russia in an effort to pressure the Russian Federation to change its policies towards Ukraine. The sanctions imposed by the European Union and the United States have targeted key sectors of the Russian economy, including energy, finance, and defense. The sanctions have limited Russia's access to international financial markets, imposed restrictions on the export of certain technologies and equipment, and targeted individuals and entities deemed to be responsible for the conflict in Ukraine. The economic sanctions have had a significant impact on the Russian economy, contributing to a decline in its growth rate, depreciation of its currency, and a decline in the value of its stocks and bonds. However, the impact of the sanctions has been limited by Russia's ability to tap into its own resources, including its sovereign wealth funds and its reserves of hard currency. In addition to sanctions, Western countries have provided military aid to Ukraine, including weapons, ammunition, and other supplies. The U.S. came big when they provided Ukraine with HIMARS. HIMARS, High Mobility Artillery Rocket System, is a mobile artillery system developed by the United States. It is designed to provide artillery support to ground forces and can be used to launch a variety of conventional and guided rockets, as well as missiles. HIMARS is mounted on a 5-ton truck and can be quickly deployed to a new location to provide artillery support. The system is equipped with GPS and fire control systems, which enable it to accurately strike targets at long distances. Due to its long range, Ukraine destroyed Russia's command posts. Russia had to pull back its logistical hubs out of HIMARS range. With all the support from the U.S. and other Western countries, Ukraine has been able to counterattack and gain back most of its lost territories from the Russian front. Ukraine's President Mr. Zelensky told Israeli Prime Minister Naftali Bennett that he would be open to meeting Putin in Jerusalem to discuss an end to the war, but that first there would have to be a ceasefire. Putin has ignored Zelensky's offers to talk and mentioned his own demands to be met before talks can take place. Firstly, the Russian Federation demands Ukraine to drop its bid to join NATO and adopt a neutral status. Recognition of Crimea as part of Russia. Russia annexed Crimea in 2014, a move that was widely condemned by the international community. Putin has consistently defended this annexation and demanded recognition of Crimea as part of Russia. End to economic sanctions. Russia has faced economic sanctions from the European Union and other Western countries in response to its actions in Ukraine. Putin has called for these sanctions to be lifted in order for the conflict to be resolved. Demilitarization of eastern Ukraine. Russia has been demanding a demilitarization of eastern Ukraine, arguing that the presence of Ukrainian military forces in the region is a threat to the local population. Putin has consistently called for a negotiated settlement to the conflict in Ukraine, arguing that it is the only way to end the violence and restore stability to the region. The talks seem impossible to take place since none of the countries want to meet the demands set by each other. However, with all the support Ukraine is getting from the Western world, what if Ukraine actually wins the war? For Ukraine to make sure of its victory over Russia, Ukraine will have to regain all the Russian-occupied sites in Donbass and Crimea. After its victory, Russia will face a lot of consequences such as diplomatic isolation. A country that loses a war is likely to face diplomatic isolation and reduced international standing. This can limit its ability to participate in international forums and will damage its relationships with other countries. Economic sanctions. The international community will impose economic sanctions on a country that has lost a war in order to penalize it for its actions and to encourage it to change its policies. Economic sanctions can have a major impact on a country's economy, limiting its access to international financial markets, trade, and investment. Pay reparations. Russia will be asked to pay for all the damage it has caused Ukraine, which is a lot of money and labor. Failing to do so, the Western world will double its sanctions on Russia, causing a huge blow to the Russian economy. Military weakness. Losing a war will also result in a significant reduction in a country's military capability, as it may lose personnel, equipment, and other resources. This can make Russia more vulnerable to future conflicts and limit its ability to defend itself. More power to China. All this damage will make Russia a third-world economy, hence China will become more powerful in terms of economy, military, and political stability. Political instability. A country that loses a war may face political instability and unrest, as its citizens question the government's ability to protect their interests and ensure their security. This can lead to internal conflict and potential regime change. After watching this video, do you think Putin will be able to withhold Russian control in Ukraine and avoid the after-war consequences? Let us know in the comments below. If you liked the video, press the like button and check out another one of our videos on screen now.